The most important action you can take in your financial journey is building a cash reserve. Now I know it says emergency fund in the title and it's practically the same, but I decided to rename it. I'll explain later why. And this one is not just for your car repairman bills, but it is your level 1 to financial freedom. And I have neglected this in the past where I was so focused on other things like investing. But once I realized what the cash reserve / emergency fund really does, I never looked back. So let me tell you the story, how I found it, the 3 purposes a cash reserve serves, and a specific strategy how you can start building yours step by step. I'm Sophia. I look back on 10 plus years of financial journey, and any step I can make easier for you, I will. Here's how I found it. I was at the end of med school and I had just started out on my financial journey. I wanted to get everything right before I earned my first salary, because I saw all those doctors around me who were already in their full-time jobs making money. I felt behind financially because I was already starting to work later in life than most people do. And therefore I wanted to be prepared. And the very first thing I did was track my money, and that got me a great deal of clarity and also the momentum to keep going. But then the question popped up, okay, what's next? But luckily the same book I was reading at the time, it was a personal finance basics German book. And the next step that was suggested there was to build a cash reserve. And I thought, cool, that is a very specific action step that I can start doing immediately. So it played right in the momentum I already had. Now let me get back to the wording. The German word for it is actually Eiserne Reserve, which translates to iron reserve. And then when I started this channel, I just adapted the English word, which is emergency fund. But I recently decided to not call it that anymore. Here's why. I have been doing a lot of mind work and money mindset and mindset stuff. And let me tell you, our mind takes the word that we speak and the words that we think very seriously. In fact, you may have heard of this before, where attention goes, energy flows. And the thing is, with the word emergency fund, you and I, we do not want to attract emergencies into our life. And so I decided to rename it to cash reserve, because at least for me, it sounds a lot more positive, or at least neutral. And I'm all for positive psychology. So I had built up that cash reserve. I will walk you through the exact process in a minute. And I swear, once I had this one filled up, I felt so much lighter. To know that this money is there and I can cover all of my expenses for the next few months, this felt so great. It almost gave me, a small sense of invincibility, because, I knew I could take care of myself. And by that, it became just so much more than just being able to pay for, like a medical bill or a car repairman bill, which I didn't even have at the time. But this was about freedom. And that brings me to the 3 purposes this cash reserve serves. And the first one is it gives you peace of mind. Peace of mind when it comes to money. The second one is it gives you protection. Because even though now we are not attracting them into our life anymore, but we are still financially prepared for unexpected events. And number 3 is it gives us freedom, because this cash reserve is the very beginning of your freedom fund, and it already buys you several months of freedom and therefore also choices. If you want to leave a job, if you want to relocate, or whatever you want to do, this cash reserve allows for that. Now, before I continue with the specific strategy on how to build yours, I am hosting a free live web class where I talk about all the strategies that I used to build wealth without living frugal. So if you are interested in a shortcut for your own financial journey, there is a link down below where you can save your spot. And now let's continue with the step-by-step process on how to build your cash reserve. So step number 1 is you define your target. So how many months do you want to save up? The usual recommendation is 3 to 6 months. Now I say 3 months is not enough. I heard from different people when a job ends for whatever reason or something else comes up, 3 months just is not enough of wiggle room to really get you that peace of mind and that freedom. So I say go for 6 months, because 6 months is enough time. It's enough time to take some time off and think about what really becomes the next step. It's enough time to send out applications if that's necessary. And you can do all of that, without worrying that you're running out of money. At least running out of money too soon. Or if you want to be on the really safe side, like I personally, You can also go for 12 months. And the second thing of the define your target step is to choose if you want to use your expenses or your income. Now, if at the moment you're spending 100% of your income, then you use that. But if your actual expenses, so not some made up number of fixed costs, but the actual expenses you have every month, if they are significantly lower than your income, then you can also go for expenses. But either way, both is fine. In the latter example, 6 months of income would buy you even more months when your expenses are lower than that, if you know what I mean. Step number 2 is store that money in a safe place where you can access it fast. Now, this is very important. We need fast access. Now, I do not recommend at all to keep that money in your checking account, because safe place also means that this money is safe from you spending it. And when you spend all types of bills from your checking account, then it's not, safe from being spent. But safe also means safe from market fluctuations. So not under any circumstances invest that money. My personal top choice is a high yield savings account, because when you choose the right bank, then this will be insured within the right regulations. And on top of that, the money that's there earns you interest. So you turn your money into more money. An alternative would be a money market account. Now careful, a money market fund is not the same as a money market account. A money market fund is also a type of investment. And even though they are not high risk, they are very low risk. But even a low risk is still a risk, so I do not recommend to put your cash reserve money into a money market fund. There will be other money for that, just not this money. All right. A third alternative would be to just keep the money in cash, either at home, for example, in a safe or another safe place at home, or in a safe deposit box at a bank. And then step number 3 is create a list of situations where you are allowed to access that money. This can be particularly helpful if you are someone who struggles with spending money that's there. So what you could put on that list is unexpected events like a job loss, and also certain types of bills like medical bills, if they are unexpected. Now, I think for most people it's enough to just have it in a different place that is not your checking account. But a list like this, even if it's just in your head, can still be helpful, so that you're really crystal clear on when you can use that money and when not. All right, and then number 4 is reevaluate. And this is actually the step that I got wrong in the beginning, because I did build up my cash reserve, but then I moved and my apartment got bigger and therefore also more expensive. So I had higher costs, but at the time I didn't really think about this. So I just kept investing my money. And I think it was months, if not years, that I noticed, my cash reserve is not up to date anymore, because my costs are higher and I kind of updated my life, which means my cash reserve also needs an update. And as soon as I noticed, I fixed it. So I do recommend to evaluate at least once a year if your cash reserve still meets your needs. And then when you find out it does not, there's 2 main things you can do. You can either stop the money flow that is going into your investment accounts and redirect it into your cash reserve, so into your high yield savings account or whatever storage you use. So you redirect it there instead until it's again filled up. Or you can keep investing that money and just lower it. And then the other part goes into filling up your cash reserve. Or of course, a third alternative, if you're extra motivated, you can keep the money flow that's going into your investments and you make a cost-cutting sprint to save up as much money as you can to be able to fill up your emergency fund. I would prefer the other 2 methods though, so I would make the cash reserve a priority. And you already guessed it, once that cash reserve is built up, because I mentioned it throughout the video, the next step for you is to expand your freedom fund even more by investing your money, because this then will you buy more months and more months, up until years, up until decades, up until your whole life of freedom. If you want to learn more about that, I'll link a video for you here. Thank you for watching, wishing you success, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.